What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of NFL Turf Talk. We're live here on a Thursday night on DSM Media's Turf Talk YouTube channel and the DSM Media Philadelphia Twitter channel. Guys, first and foremost, the same way we start off each and every one of our shows, do yourself a favor, do us a favor. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms, most specifically the Twitter channel. Check out the link tree in our bio, and it will take you directly to all three of our YouTube channels. Make sure to tap into all three, then hit that subscribe button. It's the best and only spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here with us. I'm on half of your host tonight, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Week 11 is in the books, man. Week 12 kicks off tonight with an AFC North Steelers-Browns matchup in Cleveland. We're going to be breaking down that game, getting into our updated top 10 power rankings, and taking a look back at some of the biggest matchups and our takeaways from that Week 11 slate. My man, happy Thursday. What is going on?
Happy Thursday, brother. Week 11 in the books. We're on to Week 12, kicking it off tonight with this match. Do you call this a good matchup? Do you call this a great matchup? What do you call this matchup tonight?
No. Because here's the thing with this game. It shouldn't be a good matchup, but in terms of it'll be a close game, which will make it not a good matchup. The Browns, I have a very odd feeling the Browns are going to grimy this game up, and it might – have some turnovers and some stupid plays and like
very on par.
Your typical short week Thursday night football matchup, because it shouldn't be a good matchup, because I think the Steelers are playing very, very well right now. I think they're winning in multiple different fashions, kicking only field goals and beating the Ravens last week, which we're going to talk about. So they shouldn't have too much of an issue with Jameis Winston and the 2-win Browns. But I'm sure they will, because the spread's like 2.5 or 3, and that should tell you all you need to know.
It never fails. Yeah. No, it never fails. But welcome, Marcher. We will be back tomorrow to dissect whatever is going on over in the Sixers organization. But I'll tell you this, man, I'm not losing sleep.
Whatever it is.
I'm not giving my energy to it anymore. I'm not losing sleep.
The realization that the season is over.
They're a big-ass walking joke until they're not. That's the way I'm looking at it. But welcome, cheers. NFL Week 12. It's here, man. And before we know it, it's going to be over, and we'll have to divulge our attention to the Sixers. So
very true.
Yeah, let's not do that right now.
Week 12, we got Thanksgiving next week. Obviously, that's always a big day for football until you take a quick peek at what the games are looking like next Thursday, and Christmas Day is looking a lot better than Thanksgiving football now.
Because I know what the Cowboys are playing, right? Cowboys. What's his face? Tommy
DeVito versus Cooper Rush. We get on Thanksgiving. The Lions are obviously playing, which you would think, great game. Lions at noon. Wrong. It's not awful, but they're playing. Wait, what week am I looking at?
They're playing a team. It's the Bears. They're playing the Bears. But this Bears team has lost 4 games in a row.
I mean, they can't move the football. Their offense is atrocious, so I'm not expecting that to be a close game.
They're not going to be able to keep up.
Yeah, Tommy DeVito and Cooper Rush. And then maybe the night game, if the Dolphins' offense is still healthy and intact, you have Dolphins in Lambeau.
The Dolphins are just kind of annoying. They're like that annoying team in AFC that, maybe they could make the playoffs, but really, what does it matter? They're really just playing spoiler over there. I feel like, because they're going to give teams a tough challenge when they're healthy, but they're just not a good. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get into the Dolphins too much, but
they're not a team you take seriously in any regard.
Yeah, they're not a team you take serious. They're 1 headache away from
not wrong.
From hell.
You're not wrong. I'd throw out there, man, I know we're getting way off script from where we're supposed to start the show.
We're having a good time, man. Week 12.
And again, it's his own decision. I don't give a fuck if Tua wears the cap. I think the cap looks ridiculous as is. But seeing Devon Achane and some other Dolphins players on offense wearing the cap, it's just a total mindfuck to me, because it's the one guy that this thing was probably created for is don't need it. And then the others
Zero sense.
Yeah, the others are let me look like fucking Megamind out here. I mean, it looks ridiculous. I understand.
It does. It looks stunning.
I wouldn't want to wear it. Whether I was a child or a professional athlete, I would not want to wear it.
You know what looks weirder? I won't say dumber because that's offensive, but I'll say weirder is Tua twitching out on the ground after a concussion. So And I don't mean to like take it lightly or laugh about it. It's just it is goofy that
seeing like
Devin A-Chain has one on.
Onto the field with the cap on his top of his helmet is crazy to me. But let's go back.
It's not lying. It's the Iron Man suit.
Let's take a peek back at this Week 11 slate, man. Obviously, on Monday's show, we talked a little bit about the NFC playoff picture, and that kind of led the conversation with the Detroit Lions. Let's start there. 52-6. Jaguars 2-9 on the year from two different sides. Impressive win. You drop 50 plus in the NFL. It's a very, very impressive day. Jared Goff responds from his 5 interception primetime television game where they escape with a win. He follows it up going 24 of 29 over 400 passing and 4 touchdowns. They absolutely lit up the scoreboard. Reversely, you're the Jags. Dougie P. Probably the next head coach to be fired.
How is he not fired yet?
Yeah. Dougie P, Press Taylor still have a job. Trevor Lawrence, I don't know what to make of him anymore because he, at one point in time, to me, at least 3 years ago, 3 years ago, was a guy I thought was inside the top 10 of quarterbacks in the league. And now I just don't trust him to go win a game.
Was he ever really a top 10 quarterback?
I'm sorry. I forgot Mac Jones started the last week. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Mac Jones did start, but even then, right? Look at the record. They have 2 wins on the season? Yeah, Trevor got those, but he also got all the other losses as well. And it just makes me think back, man, like, because I had him in my top 10 as well. Was he actually a top 10 quarterback? Like, was he performing at that level? Or was it just the pedigree? We saw what he was in college. He did have, like, a bright season. He had a decent season, right? Like, was he ever even as good as Jaden Daniels this season?
Yeah, I mean, right?
Probably.
I'd have to go back and look at the numbers. The thing
I don't want to disrespect him too much. You're right.
Just won. Obviously, no, we weren't watching Trevor Lawrence when he was in college. I don't even know what state he lived in, what state he went to college. But all I know about his resume is that he won. In high school, excuse me. He won in high school. Yeah. He goes to Clemson. He, I believe either gets the 2 national championships, wins one, whatever the case was. Winner all throughout his time at Clemson. Gets to the NFL, and you can just see he just seemed like that Peyton Manning-esque prospect. And then he gets his first playoff start and comes from 27-3 down at home against the Chargers and comes back and beats Justin Herbert. And you see the flashes. The issue, Scotty, is there's no flashes anymore. Yeah. There's other guys that are borderline top 10, great quarterbacks, middle of the pack quarterbacks. There's flashes. They make throws here and there that you go, wow, that can be a franchise guy. I don't even I watched that entire Eagles-Jags game. There wasn't a moment that it was like, wow, this guy scares me.
I agree. And, it just takes me back because I'm sitting here thinking about Trevor Lawrence, and it's like, is he a franchise quarterback, man? Like, could he have like a Jared Goff type of situation if he left the I guess what I'm asking is, does he have talent around him in Jacksonville? Like, do you feel that way?
I think he did at one point. I mean, I remember going into last year at least, and they had brought in Calvin Ridley. They had Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk, and one more receiver, Evan Engram, but they had one more receiver as well. Maybe Marvin Jones Jr. I forget.
You might be right. He got recycled there a couple times.
I thought there was enough, right, to just be serviceable and make the big plays. And
but maybe that was because of what you thought about Trevor Lawrence as well, right? We thought that he was more than like a game manager or somebody.
Well, and then also they go out this year and they replace Calvin Ridley with Gabe Davis, who I've never been high on. So that's in Lawrence's defense. And to go against the Jaguars front office, they paid Gabe Davis around the same, if not more money than the Eagles paid Saquon Barkley. And that wasn't looked at as a bad business decision. So whatever. Doug Peterson on the hot seat, Trevor Lawrence, a lot of question marks.
Going nowhere fast.
And then, like you mentioned, with the Lions and Jared Goff, man, just a perfect situation. And it just seems like we're on a collision course, us as Eagles fans, to meet that team later on down the road in January at some point and see how that offense looks against this defense and our offense. I will throw out there one thing. It's something that you brought to my attention on Monday's show. They did drop 52 points. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 2 touchdowns. Second touchdown came in the fourth quarter when they were up
51 or 52.
Yeah, when they were up 45-3 or 45-6 at that point. I'll throw this out there.
Yeah.
Everyone's so worried about Nick Sirianni and our coaching staff. And I am as well. Trust me, if you watch our show enough, you know that. You know my thoughts on Nick Sirianni. It scares the hell out of me. But everyone is just somehow giving Dan Campbell this pass. And like you said to me before, man, maybe it's because he's just this rugged, tough guy's guy, the loudness, the ferocious. But people soon forget what cost them the NFC Championship game was his aggressiveness and his decision-making. And he has the same role as a decision-maker and a leader as a head coach as Nick Sirianni does. And I don't know, like, why is Amon-Ra St. Brown on the field in a 40-point game in the fourth quarter against the Jacksonville Jaguars? Why is Jared Goff still throwing touchdown passes?
Yeah.
There's too much, and I promise you Dan Campbell makes a mistake in a big-time moment moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's the funny part about the talk, between Detroit and Philadelphia. Everybody points to the coaching, right? That's where you see all the big media analysts pointing to. But when you really look at it, you got Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator, that is great. And you have Kellen Moore, who has a ton of experience coming from where he's came from. So, I don't know. I look at the defense even, right? Look to Vic Fangio and what he's been able to do with that unit on our side. And I have to ask, do the Lions even have better coaching, let alone it being like some big advantage for them? Do they even have better coaches? I'm not 100% sure. Ben Johnson, once again, great. But like you said, what is the point when you're up 49-6, they kick a field, like you're going down the field and kicking a field goal? You know what I mean? Like 42-6, you go down 96 yards. And score a touchdown with Amon-Ra. Like,
man, look,
whatever.
Play call, like, styles are different, right?
Yeah.
No one's bitching that they ran up the score. They scored 52 points. No one cares about that. I'm asking, why are the starters still in the fourth quarter of a 40-point game?
Because
not for me. I'm saying for you. Because if Jared Goff takes one stupid bad hit, if Amon-Ra St. Brown twists an ankle or does something non-contact late in that game,
pulls a handy,
and you are going to go, oh my God, what did I do?
Yeah, man. Like it's what we sit and look at the end of Eagles games. And don't get me wrong, it's sometimes frustrating, especially from like a betting standpoint, when the Eagles just pack it in because they're up 20 points. Like, it gets frustrating from that standpoint, but from a health standpoint, trying to keep Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Smitty, these key integral pieces of your offense healthy is always the move, man. But people will only bring it up when something bad happens. That's the way it works. So until they have an injury in a garbage time game like that, nobody's going to really say anything about it. But I do just beg the question. I would love to ask Dan Campbell, what do you get out of this?
Well, what was the thought process?
Confidence? I don't know. Chemistry? Sure. I don't know. But the Lions are interesting. We're talking about the two hottest teams in the NFL right now when you're talking about the Eagles and the Lions. Lions 8-game win streak, Eagles 6. So these are the big dogs that we're getting into here. But Washington, man, lost 2 straight. How are we feeling about Washington? I know you were in a lower spot on them than I was going into those 2 matchups. The last couple weeks anyways, but how are you feeling now?
Feels good to just feel a little validated, because things that I thought about this team and this quarterback, it takes nothing away from the season he and they are having. It's just, I just wanted to put a stop to this narrative that he is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts and that they are more dangerous in the NFC than the Eagles and all this fucking nonsense. And then they got smacked in the mouth with reality last Thursday night. And their quarterback went into a hostile environment on a short week and looked absolutely shaken up. I mean, I don't remember exactly. I know we talked about this game on the Faithful Fanatic show, but
yeah.
I mean, he threw for less than 200 yards, threw a pick, was sacked 3 times, and out of his 190 yards, I mean, goddamn, like 100 of them came from dumping it off the running back. So he made no plays down the field. Terry McLaurin was put in Guantanamo Bay. Like, they couldn't do a goddamn thing, and their defense just got worn down. To their defense played out of this world in the first half.
They did.
But when you play a good team that has a great line and a good quarterback and a great running game, what happened in that second half and in that fourth quarter is what's going to happen to you. You could keep Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in check for 2.5, 3 quarters. Good luck keeping them in check for that fourth quarter if you don't break apart and take advantage of it. What Washington failed to do last Thursday night was take advantage of the Eagles. They had a short, messed up, shanked punt. Jake Elliott missing multiple field goals, missing like just looking ridiculous. The offense not sustaining drives. The Washington Commanders and Jaden Daniels never took advantage of it, and it bit them in the ass, and that's just what they are. They're a young, inexperienced team, and that was my whole point. Washington is good. They're going to be good for years to come if Jaden Daniels is their quarterback. They are nowhere near legitimate contention for anything right now.
Yeah, got to add a weapon or 3 to that offense. And I think that's ultimately what got exposed.
And Noah Brown and Brian Robinson Jr., who, he runs hard. Great. What is Brian Robinson Jr. as a lead back? So, the Commanders feel a little good there, man. Let me ask you about another team in the NFC, looking around this playoff picture. Packers-Bears. Packers come away with a win off of a blocked field goal. The Bears should be 5-5 right now. The Packers should be 6-4 right now, but they come away with, I don't want to call it a lucky victory. They obviously had to make the play. But Caleb Williams got them into position. Jordan Love and the Packers offense could not take advantage and really move the ball consistently in this game. I guess my question is, like, 7-3, we know they're a good team. What holds the Packers back? Because I don't think they are like standing wise. I think you could look at them and be like, oh, they're a top 3 or 4 team in the NFC. I think realistically, I think they are like 2 tiers down from the Lions and the Eagles.
They're a tough team to gauge. I'm just looking at their numbers. I mean, the Jordan Love turnovers, I think that's the downfall ultimately this year. Josh Jacobs actually having like a quiet, like decent year, 800 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns. So, because I was looking, I was like, maybe it's like the run game. Like Josh Jacobs was supposed to be this big improvement over Aaron Jones, and just doesn't feel like it's been that way. I will say Chicago's defense is decent, right? And it is a division game, so I think you give a little bit of grace to a division rival and these teams knowing themselves so well, but you have this game, not the week after. They had a bye week in between, but right before the bye week, they lose to the Lions by 10, only put up 14 points on that Lions defense. That they're decent. They create turnovers. They are opportunistic, but they're not great, to the point where they should be holding a team like the Packers down like that, in my opinion. So I think there's got to be a bunch of things going wrong right now, I feel like, but I would start with the quarterback who, let me see his numbers from last year, because I feel like the interceptions.
He put up numbers last year. I think he had over like 44,000 yards passed.
He's already at the same amount of interceptions as last year.
And mind you, he's missed like 3 games.
Half the touchdowns, same amount of interceptions. I think that you can point right there, but I think there is a multitude of things that are going wrong with them. Yeah. But I do think I ultimately agree with you. I'm trying to think, is there a team in the NFC that I have between them? Between Green Bay and Philadelphia and Detroit.
And I think that
Minnesota?
Minnesota, maybe, but I'll tell you this. I think they play this week. I could be wrong. I'm taking San Francisco over the Packers. Like, to win a game, you give me you give me team on team, Sunday Night Football, whatever it is, I would take San Francisco 49ers to beat the Packers. Right
where is it at? Is it in
I think
Green
it's in
Bay?
Lambeau. I think they play this week. I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is in Lambeau. It's interesting. Yeah, the Packers are 3-point favorites in that game. How did you feel about that San Fran Seattle game?
Loved it, first and foremost. Sorry.
Loved it, yeah. But in respect to what you just said, like obviously that's a disappointing loss for the Niners.
To me, man, again, I think just styles, make fights, and
Yeah.
And I know that defense is beat up, and that is not the same San Fran defense as in the past.
Yeah.
And do I think San Fran is making a run this year? No, I've seen all the conversation about their window closing and the age and the injuries, and I completely get it, and I completely agree. But you're talking about a team that is a game out of first place within their division. I believe still has a couple division games to go. I wouldn't count the Niners out just yet. I'm not talking like contention. I'm just saying in terms of NFC playoff picture. And if you gave me, like wild card weekend, you gave me the Packers versus Niners, taking the Niners. This Sunday, you just read me that line. I'm taking the Niners. I don't care. If Christian McCaffrey's playing, if George Kittle is playing, if Deebo Samuel is playing, that's a great point. They're almost as disgruntled as the Sixers are, but
yeah, that's fair, man. They're being torn apart. That's for sure.
I loved it, and I'll also throw this out there: like Geno beat them. Geno did not have a great game by any stretch. It's not like they ran the ball. They mucked up this game. The beautiful thing is, it's just like Brock Purdy has been more Brock Purdy this year. I think that's just the again, we talked about Washington and feeling validated. I think you can share some of that validation with me this year is like Brock Purdy, MVP, Brock Purdy. No, okay, kick rocks because it's just not a conversation to be had anymore. So.
Yeah, it is interesting. They beat the Seahawks, 3 weeks ago? Yeah, 3 weeks ago, and they beat them 36-24 in Seattle, but lose at home to them. Right. But the difference, I mean, Brock Purdy, like you said, in that first game in Seattle, he has 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. This game's a whole different story. So kind of give that game away. So we'll see if they bounce back. I think, to your point, you're coming off a loss that just – if you're San Fran, right, if you're San Fran head coach, players, fans – you're not supposed to lose that game. No. So I think you come out with a fire under your ass against the Packers, and I think they could show them.
I do agree, Martian. I just think, again, when we talk about the kryptonite that could be Jordan Love's turnovers, I'm just envisioning Jordan Love turning the ball over against San Francisco.
He'll have a perfect game.
Yeah.
Nah.
But let's move on, man. I got like 2 more games I want to touch on with you. Maybe 3 before we get into power rankings and then get into tonight's game. Ravens-Steelers. Steelers obviously playing tonight. Steelers get the win. Undefeated since Russell Wilson's taken over. They're now 8-2. They have a 1.5 game lead on the Baltimore Ravens for first place in the AFC North. Obviously, winning that one was huge. And I just found it funny, man. I'm listening to Dan Orlovsky on ESPN, I think the morning after or 2 days ago or something, and he's talking about how he doesn't have Pittsburgh as like a top 4 team, even in the AFC. And he goes on to say, kicking field goals and that offense just isn't good enough. Mind you, before this past week, Pittsburgh's offense has been fantastic. Like 27 points per game, fantastic. Like moving the ball, running the ball, fantastic. They get slowed up in a division battle, but he goes on to say the words, you're not going to beat teams like the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Bills by kicking field goals. My guy, they just fucking beat the Ravens by kicking field goals. And I can understand, like, all right, maybe you're saying playoff football is going to be a different animal. You're not going to get away with that then. Maybe. Or maybe that defense is that good.
Yeah.
And maybe they frustrated the Ravens. And maybe Pittsburgh will actually play better offensively. I didn't have my eyes keyed in on this game at 1 o'clock, man. I had Red Zone on, and they were flipping all over the place. I have to ask you, I don't know if you did watch a lot of it or what. I know that Baltimore turned the football over like 3 times. Lamar threw a pick. Henry fumbled, likely fumbled, I see here. But Derrick Henry was averaging 5 yards per pop. Lamar, 11.5 on the ground on 4 carries. Justice Hill, 2 for 13. 19 carries for 124 yards. Yet they threw the ball 33 times in this game. And as you see, they only lost by 2. At halftime, they were only down by 2. So what got Baltimore and that play calling all disjointed in this one? Because all they've wanted to do all year long is run with Derek and run with Lamar. So what the hell changed in this one?
I'm trying to think here. So I'm looking at I do see the averages. So Derrick Henry, he had a long run of 31. So that takes half of the yardage he had, and then Lamar 25, so half of that yardage as well. So maybe they just had one big run, and then the rest was just getting shut down. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense is legit. And I think in a game where you can hold Baltimore to 16 points, I mean, that says a lot. And yeah, Marshawn Lynch points it out. That's who we got to play after the Ravens, right? So we got Rams, Ravens, Steelers. Or is the Panthers in between that? It might be the Panthers in between, but
yes, it's the Rams, Ravens, Panthers, Steelers, I believe.
Let me ask you this. Do you come away with this game feeling like the Steelers are better than the Ravens, like legitimately?
I mean, pound for pound, I don't know.
It's really tough. It's a tough question because the Steelers defense is so much better than the Baltimore defense.
Right. I think what I'm trying to think of is like, I'm not going to sit here and say definitively that the Pittsburgh Steelers are a better football team than the Baltimore Ravens. However, it's as 50-50 as it can get for me ever since making that transition to Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And
who would you rather play in the playoffs?
Like if I was the Eagles or like if they met in the Super Bowl or if I'm an AFC team?
Yeah, either. I guess either. But I guess Eagles is very specific, just if you're any team.
I'd probably rather play the Ravens, dude. And for a few reasons, okay? You already mentioned the defense. You already talked about the defense. Well, what is I know football has changed and it's developed, and we love an air attack and we love to throw the ball. What happens in January?
Yeah.
Can you run the ball? Can you play defense? Can you stop the run? Well, one team does it one team can stop the run very well and they can run the ball. Another team runs the ball very well. Defense is a little fucked up. All right.
Yeah.
Secondly, I've never seen Lamar Jackson get to a Super Bowl. I've seen Russell Wilson play in a Super Bowl.
Nah, it's funny. It's funny. I do feel you, though. At the end of the day, like, with all jokes aside, the Steelers with Russ at quarterback is like the best that they've had in the since Big Ben, right? Like since Big Ben was playing like good football.
Stepped in and been everything that we said they needed in the offseason. Like, what if the Steelers are one team that was missing what? A quarterback.
He does do this. He does do this thing where he throws like deep balls that should be going to George Pickens, but they're going to like Van Jefferson and shit. That shit is annoying to even watch, like as a non-Steelers fan. But no, I do agree. He's playing some really good ball. Are the Steelers are they a top 5 team in the NFL?
Yes. Yeah, I'm there.
Right? Like, we're 8-2, right? They're 8-2.
They are right on the fringe. They are, spoiler alert, 5 in my power rankings.
Same.
And they very well could be a slot or two higher. Like because dude, when you have that dominant of a defense, they do it in all 3 levels on the defensive side. They can turn you over. They had the best defensive player in TJ Watt. Like they get to the quarterback. Whatever.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of game records, right? And then offensively, they're doing exactly what they need to do. They're running the ball with high success. The play action's working. Yeah, you do want to see some of the deep shots go to your playmakers and not uncontested catches down the boundary. Who did they play to? Washington. He hit Mike Williams with the game winner, but the couple passes before that, he was throwing to Calvin Austin and Van Jefferson.
Calvin Austin, that's the guy I couldn't think of.
But outside of that, like they're doing everything they need to do. They're very balanced, and they legitimately might have the best defense in football.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, they are a legit team at 8-2. Anyone that says otherwise is I don't know.
To your point, I'm not saying they're the best team in the AFC, but they can beat any team in the AFC.
Exactly.
On any given Sunday, to your point.
1,000%. So, yeah. Speaking of 2 teams in the AFC, kind of last game before we get to our power rankings.
Sheesh.
Bills, Chiefs. got it done. Finally. I know it's the regular season. It's not the postseason. Not when everyone wants to see it get done. But Josh Allen says on 4th down, Patrick Mahomes, you are not getting this football back in a one-possession game. And he cribs one from like 30 yards out on a ridiculous quarterback keeper. And the Bills go on to win 30-21. Allen, 27 of 40, used his legs well, got different guys involved. And, dude, it was the first time all year. Because here's the thing. We were just waiting. The Chiefs haven't been right all year. But when they keep winning, what are you going to say? Someone has to knock them off at some point, right? They get to this point, and they didn't look like themselves, especially defensively. Their defense had been the side of the ball that's kept them in games over and over again, even when Mahomes is struggling and Kelsey's struggling and they can't run the ball. In this game, there was a touchdown, or was it a touchdown or the first down pass? Dude, he threw like a crosser. I'm forgetting the guy's name. Hold on. To Curtis Samuel. It was Curtis Samuel's touch. He threw a crosser to Curtis Samuel. And I think Curtis Samuel, when he caught it, he turned his head. I think he was surprised
that it was
no one was near him.
Yeah.
Like it was like a 3rd and long. Like it was just so unlike Spagnuolo's defense and that Chiefs unit this year. And it's like you finally saw them bleed. You finally saw them be human. And Mahomes, 2 interceptions. Like, dude, it's Mahomes, right? And we know things change in the playoffs, but if anyone else was having the season he was having, people would be ripping this quarterback apart.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And it's actually what I was going to ask you, but you just said it. And I'm in the same boat. I don't want to use the word concerned. I'm not concerned about 9-1 Mahomes team and, the Chiefs or whatever, but 11 interceptions, the turnovers aren't stopping, the mistakes in the big parts of games too, right? Like in the latter stages of games. I'll use it. It has to be a little concerning, even at 9-1. Some of the ways that they've had to go out and win some football games here. And the thing that I'm looking at, man, there's been a lot of talk about it. I do think it's a bit overblown. I'm not saying that this is the case with them. But after something like what happened last year with the Philadelphia Eagles, starting the season the way they started it, the way it looked, and then that first loss, it wasn't the first loss, I think it was the second loss that crumbled down, and that's what really just sent this thing spiraling down the hill. I'm interested to see the Chiefs over the next few weeks. Now, they get the good grace of playing the Carolina Panthers next. So that should be, blessed be, a big W for them, a bounce-back game. But last couple games, man, I'm not sure that these guys, they haven't covered the spread in their last, 4 games since the San Francisco 49ers when they beat them by 10? So, they've won games, but they're not winning them the way that they're supposed to, if that makes sense. So I am interested to see how they finish out this season. They got the Panthers, the Raiders, Chargers, Browns, Texans. Not the greatest competition coming up, but we did see an Eagles team that just went spiraling last year lose to the Cardinals, to the Giants, to whoever else, right? Like they lost to everyone down the stretch. But like I said, I'm not expecting that from the Chiefs, but it is something we need to keep an eye on just because of the close games they've been having lately. And then this loss, but Bills, man, is it something to not having a focal point on offense as a weapon to the point where, all right, we can't divulge all of our attention on this and shut this down and shut down an integral part of your offense. So in return, we're actually not shutting down any part of your offense because we're not really focusing on anything specific outside of Josh Allen, right? Like, I do wonder if that is kind of where things are with the Buffalo Bills this season.
It could be, man. I mean, if you go back, this was all and only Josh Allen. Like,
right.
James Cook had 9 carries for 20 yards. The backups averaged 3.5 and 2 yards per carry. It was Josh Allen using his legs, and obviously he had the 26-yard touchdown run. And then he was very efficient through the air. He had the 1 pick.
That 1 pick was very it was very reminiscent of previous Josh Allen seasons. It's very much a Josh Allen pick, but I think he only has one this year.
Them, but the only thing I would say for Buffalo, this is the humongous win for them. They're undefeated at home, 9-2 overall. They're right in the thick of it for that 1 seed in the AFC. No one's going to want to go to Buffalo in January, right? So that's going to be big for them. Just don't let this be your Super Bowl. Like, you have much bigger aspirations. You have much bigger plans ahead. You want to see this team come to Buffalo again, and you want to take care of business again. Because you got the win. Josh gets the win this time. Good round for you guys. It means zilch if this dude comes to town in January and kicks you out of your own house and sends you packing. So don't let this be your Super Bowl and continue to play good ball, and they'll be fine.
They got a tough stretch coming up. So they got the 49ers at home. They got a bye week coming up next. And then they get the 49ers at home, go on the road against the Rams, go on the road against the Lions. So tough stretch coming up for them. Yeah. But like you said, you get the bye week, so that kind of gives you that time to get over that W.
Look at them. My week 5 bye that I can kiss away in the past.
We needed it. I'd say we needed it, but I feel you. We could probably use one later on.
Around then, we got healthy then. Like, I get it, but still, like, to think that we then have to turn around and play what? 14? No.
It was in week 5?
13 more games.
Yeah.
We had to play 13 straight games, and then heading into the playoffs. And if you don't get a bye, so that's crazy. They're definitely going to have to adjust something. You just start the bye weeks later. There's no need that teams are having
starting in week 4 and shit.
An 18-week schedule. So
that's
pretty stupid. But
real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before Power Ranks, I did want to ask you one question regarding that. I believe maybe it was Sunday Night Football. The Bengals and Chargers.
Yeah.
Bengals. What do they do? Like, not this season, but what do they do next? Where do they go,
dude?
They're not bringing back Higgins and Chase, right?
No, they're not.
So,
to me, I mean, that defense is pretty bad, dude.
Chase looks pretty pissed off too in his interviews, man. So we'll see. They're gonna have to pay him the boatload.
I mean, the crazy part is, dude, like, Joe Burrow literally threw for 356 and 3 tutties. And they lose this game after they come all the way back. McPherson is missing multiple field goals that would have won them the game later in the fourth quarter. And the crazy thing is, like, dude, they're 4-7. If just a play or two goes their way, this is legitimately like a 6-5 team. Like, if not a little
Burrow is playing the best quarterbacking
on a losing team. Joe Burrow is
having a career season
of MVPs right now. It's
insane.
You can't find yourself in that category when your team's 4-7. So that's the problem. Monday Night Football,
the league in passing.
Monday Night Football, the Cowboys stink, dude. It's great.
Yeah,
they're great to watch.
The Texans, though, what's up with them? Even in that, it's a win.
I know. First of all, they won by 24. So that's the thing, right? Because I've heard other people say this, and I've said this to you in the past. Like, they're a 7-4 team. They haven't been healthy. Collins just came back. Mixon missed time. Diggs is out for the year. So it's not like they've been 100% the whole time. I'll give them that. They just don't give me any juice towards them being like a top contender in the AFC. Like, they are not in the same tier as the Bills and the Ravens and the Steelers, and I'll even say the Chiefs. Like, they're not on that level. And
I agree.
Listen, maybe that's a good thing for them, because maybe their best ball is still to come and they're still winning games.
It's team sleeping.
But I don't know, man. CJ Stroud. Yeah, I say same thing.
Questionable, man.
No, because he took the league by storm last year. Again, he hasn't been bad. He hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been that good.
He did a lot of media over the summer, man. He was in a lot of different places.
A lot of media with the number 11 that's also in Texas. That is the biggest ass face of all professional podcasters. Did you see him? I tried to say this before we get into Did you see Micah Parsons' podcast that was either today or yesterday?
No.
He goes over the playoff picture for the AFC and the NFC. First of all, this is like a crazy thing. This is why I can't stand that he specifically and players have a podcast designed the way his are. Like, there are players that have podcasts, but they just like tell stories and they'll joke and talk about the game and different stuff like that, right? Micah Parsons' podcast is like you and I breaking down games and performances and like everything. So this dude's going on. So you're actively playing on a shit team, and you're going to jump on a national podcast with Bleacher Report and talk about how you're surprised that this team is in the playoff picture in the AFC. Dude, then he gets to the NFC and he starts to talk about how, he's surprised, and a lot of people got to be surprised that, there's no 49ers and no Cowboys in the NFC playoff picture. And he keeps saying, he must have said 5 times, well, we lost our quarterback, so we're a step behind. Dog, you lost your quarterback when you were like 3-5.
Bro. He said we lost our quarterback.
Yeah. Dude, and he said it like 18 times in the clip I watched.
Oh my God, dude.
It's just delusional. Like he encompasses, he embodies that fan base and that organization so well. Because and the weird thing is he's not from down there. He's a Penn State boy. Like I don't know where, like maybe you just become a Cowboy and you just become delusional. I don't know what happens, but
you know what, Cowboys?
Your quarterback that you lost is on tape saying, we fucking suck, as you're getting blown out and going to 3-5 or 3-6 on the year. Like your season was cooked way before you lost your quarterback.
Brother, like, come on, man. Like, I just can't with Micah Parsons. Like, just shut up, dude. Like, the Dallas Cowboys. Should you be? I'll say this. I'm surprised that they suck so bad. Like, that they're so bad. But am I surprised that their offense can't move the ball?
With Cooper Rush, I was surprised they were as bad as they were with Dak. And the
fact that Dak, that's what I mean.
Like,
yeah.
Couldn't get on the same page. Like, bro, aren't you guys like the two that have been together? Like, you both
the longest in the division?
Like, you two are supposed to be the ones that have that chemistry, have that camaraderie, and you were the two looking off sync to each other. So
Cowboys fans, they're focusing on Shadir, who's the other, Travis Hunter, and Jainty, the running back, right? So they're focused on the draft.
Let's kick Mike McCarthy out, let Deion take over and coach the Cowboys. Former Cowboy, that's Jerry's plan. It'll work.
Absolutely, it'll work. It'll work. Oh, we got a rivalry this week, man. Pastor Rims.
Oh, I forgot. Sunday's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man.
Pastor Rims, can I introduce you to Quinyon Mitchell?
About to talk about that shitty ass Rams defense.
Yeah. I offer you some Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, some white on white.
Yeah,
some white on white crime.
I don't want violence. It's what we're all about here.
Coop on coop.
Yeah. Let's get into this power rankings, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to lie. Normally, especially around this time when the playoff picture starts to mean more and every game starts to mean more, as we get into the holiday season, I would think that I would struggle, especially at least towards the back end of my power rankings.
Yeah.
I don't have a tough time. I put this list together with you in 0.2 seconds before we went live. Maybe my number 10 team I could flip out for another team or two. That's how I feel too. So I'm going to throw this to you very quickly, and then you can throw yours back and we can get into it. Coming in at number 10, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, when I say I could flip them out, I look at the Chargers, I look at the Commanders, and I look at the Cardinals as those teams that I could put sliding into that last and final spot. Everybody else just is a game or so back for me. I have the Chargers there. I think Harbaugh has his team actually playing well. Herbert looks good with not a ton of help. They're running the ball. So I'll put the Chargers there. They're a 7-win team. At number 9, I have the 8-2 Vikings. Record-wise would suggest that they should be a lot higher. Sam Darnold has come way back down the earth. They're still winning games.
Yeah.
But that whole MVP conversation, that whole, this Vikings offense can do whatever they want to you. Look at the script. He's in sync. Now that's gone. Their defense is winning them games, and they're winning against bad opponents recently that they're struggling with. So Vikings at number 9. Record is really good. They'll be a playoff team, but I'm not scared of them at all. Number 8, same kind of thing. I have the Houston Texans, man. Another 7-win team. 24-point win on Monday Night Football. Maybe you could argue could be higher. Just don't feel like themselves. CJ Stroud doesn't look like himself from last year. Stephon Diggs out for the year. Nico Collins just returning this week. So they're going to have to continue to put 60-minute performances together for me to bump them higher. Number 7, I have the Green Bay Packers. We talked about Jordan Love and his turnovers. 7-3. I think they're another playoff team as a potential wild card. Them and the Vikings are behind the lines, excuse me. Then I think there's a cutoff line for me. So that's my 7 through 10. Now I think the tiers change. Now we get into who I think are actual Super Bowl threats. I think there's 6. And now what we have is I had the Baltimore Ravens sitting at number 6. I think the Baltimore Ravens week to week can be the best team in football. From what they've done recently, I mean, they have what now, dude? 4 losses on the year?
Yeah.
I mean, the teams above them just don't have that issue. And they're all playing good ball, except for one who just got their first loss. So I'm not going to dump them that far down. I think the Ravens can be the best team in football. What's up?
How did they wax the Broncos a couple weeks ago? 41-10, man. How did that happen?
And it's inconsistent, and that's the thing that can concern you when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. But I do have them at number 6, but I still think that week to week they can be the best team in the league. Number 5, the team that just beat them, the 8-2 Pittsburgh Steelers. We talked about them at length, what Russell Wilson has brought to this offense. Yes, I know they kicked 6 field goals. That's not going to cut it most weeks. But guess who they just beat with those 6 field goals? The Baltimore Ravens. So, yeah, I'm going to give you the edge up here. Now we get into the teams that have been playing really well, and then one exception. I had the Kansas City Chiefs sitting at number 4, man. They've been my number 1 all year long. But we've known they're not really number 1. But what am I going to say to the back-to-back Super Bowl champions who are 9-0 and can't lose? What am I going to say? You're not number 1 in the power rankings? No, that's not true. So they were number 1. They dropped to number 4. And I have a feeling if it wasn't for their schedule, like you mentioned, this is a Chiefs team that could be sitting at number 6 or 7 in a few weeks. Number 3, the team that just beat them, the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen maybe leading the MVP conversation at the moment, finally gets that win over Patty. Doesn't mean what he needs it to mean. That'll come in January. But nonetheless, big win for the Bills. Trying to get home field advantage for Bills Mafia throughout the AFC would be huge for them. Number 2, our Philadelphia Eagles, 6-game win streak. And at number 1, the Detroit Lions, 8-game win streak. I think those are the 2 best teams in football right now, man. We've talked about it at length on multiple shows. I think those 2 are headed on a collision course to meet later on in January, whether it's at the Link or whether it's at Ford Field. But those are the 2 best teams in the league right now. You are paused, my friend. Rocket.
Rocket was going in, yeah. If the Eagles win their next 2 games, are they just number 1 by default? Like if they beat the Rams and the Ravens on top of already beating the Commanders and whatever else, right?
I think it's a great point.
They're number 1 by
default. Take a quick peek at who the Lions got the next 2 weeks. At Colts and the Bears. Yeah, man. I mean, if the Eagles are 10-2 and the Lions are 11-1, it's a game difference, and we're going off of strength of schedule. Yeah, I'm going to take the Eagles at this point in time.
Yeah, it depends how it looks, right? Like if Detroit's out here dropping 50 every week, then it's going to be hard to put a team ahead of them. But if the Eagles can beat the Rams on the road and then beat the Ravens on the road after you beat the Commanders, I mean, it's self-explanatory. But number 10, I agree with the decision. You know, the perplexing decision at number 10 between Washington, Chargers, Arizona. Maybe I give Washington the nod just because of their defensive performance against.
I'm going to soak that loss in a little bit more. I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah, I'm like, you know, kind of hoisting the Eagles up a little bit with this one. You know what I mean? Washington at number 10 for me. Obviously, Jaden Daniels had a bit of a stinker against the Eagles. I think he'll look better against weaker competition. I think they got the Giants coming up, so they should bounce back. The defense looks solid. I was in between them and the Chargers ultimately, but I do agree with you.
I have the Steelers in my top 10.
Steelers were number 5. Yeah.
Number 5.
Same exact spot I have them, actually. That's why I remember. The Commanders are iffy though. Like I think
they're 11-12. They're fighting for the 10 spot. They're just.
Like, I mean, 10-11, that's not bad. Like that's not a bad situation.
Chargers 7-win team, just won on Sunday Night Football. Commanders 7-win team, back-to-back losses.
Yeah, Fair enough. And I do like your point. Like, the Chargers do run the football well. They have a defensive-oriented head coach, and Justin Herbert is playing better football now that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are gone somehow. So make it make sense. But the Chargers do look good, man. I definitely get why you have them in there. Number 9, I went with the Houston Texans. They're a confusing team for me. I think their best is yet to come, to your point, because they do get Nico Collins back, and I think he is that good. I think he is a number 1 receiver in the NFL. He's a wide receiver 1 in the NFL. He's not the number 1 receiver, just to make that clear. He is a top receiver in the NFL. Joe Mixon playing out of his mind right now as well. 3 touchdowns in that game against Dallas, but he's running hard. Number 8, I went with the Green Bay Packers. 7-3. I kind of feel similar to the way you feel about him, man. I was higher earlier on in the season, but I expected Jordan Love to cut the turnovers down a bit by now, right? Like, it sounds crazy when you say it like that, right? But look at what Jalen Hurts has been able to do since he started the season the way he did. And I use that as an example. Maybe it's not fair, maybe it is, but you don't have to go 6 weeks clean without a turnover like Jalen did. You could just go 2 weeks without a turnover. He can't even do that. He's turning the ball over at an excessive rate, up at the top of the league in interceptions. Number 7, I went with the Baltimore Ravens. I do agree with you, though. I think they are in that group of top 6, to your point. Like, I do agree with it. It's just their up and downness, like the inconsistency with this team, the defense on top of it. That's why they come in after the Minnesota Vikings at number 6, and I may be giving them a little bit too much credit. They are on a 3-game winning streak, but it's against who it's against. So, to your point, lack of competition recently is benefiting. It's given a benefactor to the Minnesota Vikings, but the defense is for real, to the point where it is hoisting Sam Darnold up at this point with an 8-2 record. So I'm giving them a little bit of credit. To be clear, though, if we're going with like playoff content, I'm going to put the Ravens over the Vikings for sure. Number 5, we agree, Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's why I was asking you those questions earlier. Like, are they a top 5 team? Are they a top 3 team in the AFC? Can they beat anybody in the NFL? They can, man, with that type of the type of team that they have. They can beat anyone. I like the Steelers, man. Not a team you want to play in the playoffs, quite honestly, especially if it's in Pittsburgh, God forbid. Kansas City, number 4, we agree there, man. They had to drop a little bit just because of the way these other 3 teams are playing right now, and specifically, obviously, the Bills just beat them.
And the red flags for Kansas City have been
They're piling up, man, to the point where I use the word concern with Patrick Mahomes. Like, and take it lightly, take it with a grain of salt, but it's a big thing when you have concerns.
Because he's not a like, he's the closest thing we have to it, but he's not a robot, man. And if, like, I get it. Like, I just don't know that this year it is just going to flip. And the other thing I'll say, and I know you have 3 more to get to.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Kansas City, I don't know so much that it's even just Patrick, man. I don't know that Travis has much left in the tank to just flip and be that focal point on offense where, like, every time in a crucial moment, Travis Kelce's getting open and getting the ball. I don't think that father. I don't think he's just.
You have to be honest, man. You have to be honest about, like, where do they get their motivation, like determination, right? That determination as the season gets grueling. They've won 3 championships so far? 2
in a row. 3? But I mean, man, to 3-peat would be something.
It is. It's an accomplishment, but, like, you're Travis Kelce, you're dating Taylor Swift, like, you've been doing this with your pod with your brother, like, he could be already out the door, man, for all we know.
Your body's got to be hurting, dude.
Right? Like, and you're, like, making good money off the field, man. He's in all types of commercials and shit. Like, he might be out the door. Number 3, I went with the Eagles, man, but I feel you. That's why I asked that question about, if they win their next 2 games, like, where would this put them ultimately? I went with Buffalo just because they just beat the undefeated Chiefs, and I wanted to give them a little bit of credit there.
Fair point.
And I had them ahead of the Eagles, to be fair, before that, I guess. So just trying to stay consistent there. And then number 1, of course, Detroit. They got the longest win streak in the NFL, but to your point, Eagles with the second longest win streak. It's It's hard to balance that with the Bills beating the Chiefs and Eagles winning 6 straight. So we'll see how this week goes. Well, Bills on a bye week, so they're not going to. That'd be crazy if they move on a bye week. If the Eagles go out on the road against the Rams and win by double digits, how good of a win is that?
It's past the Rams.
What do you think, Pastor Rams? Is that a great W?
Win that'll be. Also, I just have to address something because I didn't want to cut you off and like backtrack to a team that's not in there. But we know that he's a closeted Washington fan, so I just have to get to this point. So that means that they have one win against the team 500 or better. It's the Arizona Cardinals back in week 4. That's the one win they have over a good team. Well, they lost to the Steelers and the Eagles, and they've lost to the Ravens. That's a tough
Those aren't bad losses.
They've beaten the Bears, the Giants, the Browns.
And this man said 1-score games, dude. Come on, man. Like, I get it. Like, technically.
The Steelers, yes. The Steelers, they were in it till the very end. They were. Because remember, because they were winning.
They were, yeah. But, like, against the Eagles.
Nah.
They lose by 8. That's like just 1 point away from.
I mean, they were down by 6. They were down by 16 with 32 seconds left.
Exactly. Garbage time buckets.
It wasn't all that, but yeah. So, like, if you want to crack the top 10, beat somebody good, like somebody.
Beat somebody in the top 10.
Beat somebody good, and then I'll put you number 10.
No,
and I think that's the thing with how many, dude. There's a lot of 7, 8, 9-win teams so far.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point. Like, I get what you're saying. Like, Washington definitely could be that 10th team right now. The issue is, like, tell me which team doesn't belong. The only team in the conversation, realistically, is the Chargers, and they're 7-3, and just beat the Bengals with 34. So it's like
I'm gonna counteract my own rankings because I had the Commanders ahead of the I had the Commanders ahead of the Chargers, but. You ask yourself, obviously the Chargers are playing better football right now. They haven't lost 2 games. They've actually won quite a few in a row. Who's playing better right now out of the Cardinals and the Commanders?
The Cardinals.
So just making your point a little bit more valid. That's all.
And then don't get me wrong, Jaden got Kyler in round 1 earlier in the year. Like, beat his ass in Arizona. I get it. I'm just saying, things evolve as the year goes on. Some more tape comes out again around Jaden Daniels, take things away, and things aren't operating as smoothly over the last 7 weeks. So we'll keep an eye on it, man. Thursday night football. We got 10 minutes. I still got to get my bets in, so we got to get out of here within the next 5.
Yes, sir.
2-8 Browns hosting the 8-2 Steelers. That shit is just flip flopped. However, that spread sitting at 4 currently. It did drop to like 3 or 3.5 at one point. I don't like it. I don't like it. Not one bit, Scotty.
I don't either, man. I really don't.
Don't like it. If we're being honest, the Pittsburgh Steelers should win this game by double digits.
They should.
It shouldn't be a 1-possession game with 5 minutes to go. Should be nothing of the sort. But for some reason, Vegas seems to always know. You have a short week. You have a division rivalry. Steelers coming off of a big-time victory against the Ravens is a letdown spot. Jameis Winston. Funky things are going to happen tonight, man.
In the dog pound.
I am not laying this spread. If I had to give a play, you sent it to me earlier. I am going to take the Steelers team total in this one. I believe I'm going to take them at 19.5, just all it down a tiny bit. Man, they scored 18 last week against the Ravens only by kicking field goals. Every week before that, they've scored 28, 34, 27. If the Pittsburgh Steelers can't score 20 points against this Cleveland Browns team tonight, then they don't deserve to be in my top 5 like I have them. So
maybe they aren't as good as we think they are. Maybe they are what Dan Orlovsky thinks. But it is interesting, man. I do agree with you on the spread ultimate. It's funny because this morning I was like gung-ho. I was like, Steelers -3.5. Yeah, I'm slamming that. And then I let it marinate all day in my mind. And I was like,
something's not okay with that picture.
Something's up. And the Browns have been able to play certain teams close. Like earlier in the season, they play the Eagles 20-16. play the Bengals 21-14. They beat the Ravens. But then they have these other games where they get blown out by the Chargers, blown out by the Saints last week, blown out by the Commanders earlier this season. So you don't know what you're going to get with the Cleveland Browns, quite honestly. That's kind of what I'm getting at there. So to your point, it's better to, kind of play against yourself in a sense. And I think that's ultimately, that sounded really weird. Pause. But I like the Pittsburgh team total. I like the whole game total as well. I believe it was at 36.5. I would alt it down to maybe 33, 32.5, something like that, just to be safe. You brought it up earlier. I looked into it as well. Russ passing yards, man.
It's gone up since I peeped it earlier.
It was at 182.5 on FanDuel.
The last time you checked, really?
Yeah. So I did like that. I laid that. That was my other one I went with.
I mean, brother, the only way that doesn't hit is if the Steelers run for 300 yards.
Right. I
mean, Russell Wilson has cleared this number in every game he's started with Pittsburgh. His lowest was 195. Outside of that, he's thrown for like 263, 274, 215. Like, Russell Wilson should be able to throw for 185 passing yards tonight.
Yeah, as long as we don't have anything funky, like a 300-yard rushing game. The other thing I was looking at Pickens props as well. Big game, big matchup on national television. We know Russ likes to throw the ball deep, so the thing with Pickens, it almost feels like he can get his yardage total in one catch.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
For sure.
Because I think it was at like 60.
And his back ability too is something that helps.
Yeah.
His
two catches, he might have 62 yards for all we know. So I was looking at that. I was looking at the touchdown. I'd probably lean yards more than anything, but I'm going to stay away from it. Ultimately, I'm going with Russ passing yards, and I went with team total for Steelers on one, and then I went with like the whole game total on another.
Yeah,
so.
I just took them 19.5 team total. The only other thing I would look at, I do have a live touchdown score boost.
I do like the Steelers to win. I do like them to win, but obviously that has no juice.
I mean, man, Najee Harris at plus 110, and I can boost it.
I know.
It's something to keep an eye on. I mean, the Browns, that's the only thing that was like when it comes to Russ passing yards is the Browns, they're not good against the pass. I think the last 5 quarterbacks they have played have thrown for like 250 plus. The only thing is they are 24th against the run. They give up 132 yards per game on the ground. So if the Steelers want to run, chew up clock, then you're looking at issues.
Conservative.
Yeah. The only thing with Najee Harris is it going to be Jaylen Warren or is it going to be Najee Harris?
That's exactly what I was going to say. But that's almost every
line. It's Najee Harris.
It's almost every team you have that situation with, man. Like quite honestly, even the big dogs like the Ravens and the Eagles.
Yeah, you're their
right.
quarterback.
You don't know that Saquon's going to get a tutty, even though it's minus 200 half the time. So, no, I like Najee Harris the most out of all touchdown scores. I think that plus money's pretty good value.
Might have to do it, brother. With that said, guys, we're going to get on out of here. We will be live tomorrow afternoon, 12 to 1 round.
11, if that works for you.
11 to noon on the Fifth Fanatic Show. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. Check out the link tree in our bio to take you to every social media platform we're on. The Scotty Talks NBA YouTube channel, the Turf Talk YouTube channel, and the DSM Philly YouTube channel. Make sure to subscribe to all 3. Peace out, everybody. Enjoy your Thursday night.
Have a good one, everybody.